Hello, AP students. We are going to go ahead and start talking about the Electoral College. So this is a quick tutorial. In your Chapter 9 PowerPoint, if you could turn to the page that goes over the Electoral College, then I'd like to point several things out so you can better understand why the Electoral College was created. First of all, the Electoral College was discussed during the Constitutional Convention, and it was a basic compromise. This is one of the first big things that they visited about, because many of the Founding Fathers thought that Congress should be able to choose the president. They were worried that the people were not educated and that they would make a poor choice. But others felt that the people, being a republic, should elect the president. So the Electoral College really is a compromise between electing the president. So compromise is really one of your key things that we have talked about, but between popular election and Congress. It's a very difficult process, but I'm going to give you the basic outline right now. This is outlining the process for electing the president. We have talked about the primary campaign, and we've talked about the general campaign. Well, on Election Day, which is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of even-numbered years, the people go to the polls. And when you go to the polls, you are really choosing an elector that represents the candidate that you have marked on your ballot. Now, in the Electoral College, the number that we have electing these candidates is 538. And it's very strange how we get that number. But if you add up all of our U.S. senators, which is 100, all of our U.S. representatives, which is 435, and 3 from the 23rd Amendment, they gave the District of Columbia 3 electoral votes. Since they're a district, they're not a state. So until the 1960s, if you lived in the District of Columbia in Washington, you really had no one representing you in the Electoral College. So your vote didn't matter. So when they added the 23rd Amendment, they were increasing the voter base. So this number is how we get to 538. So I want to go back and just show you how Missouri can be affected by this. So for example, Missouri has 8 representatives because we were reapportioned in 2010. We have 2 senators. So we have 10 of the 538 electoral votes. Overall, again, we have 538 electors. And I do ask this specific question. 538 is our total. And what a person needs is that magic number of 270. 270 is a majority of the Electoral College. So a candidate has to have a campaign strategy that would add up so they can gather enough votes in every state. If you win the popular vote, then you get all of the electors in that state, except for 2, Maine and Nebraska. So number 2, this is also a fascinating thing, but I want you to know this particular thing. The national or federal government does not decide who the electors are. State legislatures decide how electors are chosen. Normally, each political party chooses a slate to nominate. So let's take, for example, the state of Missouri. We have 10 electors, which I just went over. So the Democratic Party will choose 10. The Republicans will choose 10. Libertarians will choose 10. And that slate is chosen. So whoever wins on Election Day, let's say Barack Obama won the 2008 poll, so the Democratic electors would go vote in December. And that would leave these 2 to stay at home. So that's how the state legislature of Missouri has decided on how to choose electors. So every party has people chosen, but it does depend on the popular vote. So your vote does matter on Election Day. So let's go back quickly to this part. Number 3, based on our state popular vote after Election Day, electoral ballots are cast in December at each state capital. So we vote in November, and then in December, There's a formula for that. But in December, the people in the electors in the state of Missouri would go to Jefferson City, and they ceremoniously vote for president and vice president. Now remember, because of the 12th Amendment, there are two ballots. One for president, an elector casts their vote, and one for vice president. The Constitution had to be changed after the first election because they just put two names on the ballot, and they did not designate president or vice president. So there was a tie between Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. And they realized after multiple votes that Thomas Jefferson should be the president, but it was a glitch they had not anticipated. So they rewrote or wrote the 12th Amendment to clarify that two ballots need to be cast, specifying the president and vice presidential choices of the electors. Now, after the electors vote, each elector at the state capitol casts two ballots, which is what I just said, and then those ballots are sent to Congress where they are opened in a joint session. And normally the Vice President of the United States, who is also the President of the Senate, they will open those ballots and ceremoniously count them. On election night, when a candidate wins, he is called the President-elect. Because until these votes are counted, until these are counted in January, this person is only the president-elect. And once those ballots are opened in January, normally on January 6th, then they are officially elected President of the United States. I will say again, the Electoral College, their official duty is to elect the President of the United States and the Vice President. That's their official job, based on the popular vote of the people. A candidate, again, must receive a majority of electoral votes to win the election. 270 is that magic number, which is a majority of 538. Now, here's a very interesting fact about the Electoral College. If there is a tie, oftentimes, what if we had a tie in the electorate, or because it's an even number, or like say candidates received 268 and 240, and there were some states that were not counted yet, but if there is no clear majority, or there are three candidates who have portions and nobody gets a majority, what happens is the race goes to the House of Representatives to decide who the president is, and the Senate to decide the vice president. Now, we almost went to this point in the year 2000, but we did not have to. So the House currently is run by the Republicans. So more than likely, they would choose a Republican president, but the Senate currently is Democratic. So we could come up with a split ticket, but that has not happened. I do want to show you some contested elections down here. There were several disputed elections. 1800 was the one with Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson, 1824 and 1826, and I'll show you a slide of those, and of course the election of 2000 with Al Gore and George Bush. This next slide, in 1824, there can become cases where the winner of the popular vote does not get the presidency. In 1824, the race was thrown to John Quincy Adams, who did not have enough popular votes, but because of how they cast their votes in the House, he ended up, it was a very interesting race, so he ended up winning. Andrew Jackson lost and then came back and won later. In 1876, Samuel Tilden won the popular vote, but Rutherford B. Hayes had enough electoral votes. 1888, Benjamin Harrison again edged out Grover Cleveland, but Harrison won the Electoral College. And in 2000, Gore won the popular vote nationwide, but Bush took the presidency after the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in, said stop counting, Florida votes indicated that the popular vote winner was in Florida, which gave the presidency to George W. Bush. This is an example of the electoral vote in 2004. Now, I want you to see how Missouri, I put in an extra slide, but look at how Missouri has 11 right here, California 55. In this election of 2004, Bush had 286 electoral votes and Kerry had 251. So Bush, and this is a pretty close race, was the winner in 2004. All states except Maine and Nebraska. So Maine up here, I'm sorry, on the other side, Maine had 4, but they went ahead and voted for all of them on this side. And this sample in 2012, this is a very interesting one. This is our last electoral college vote. Obama received 332. Romney received 206. And the darker the red, you can see how those states supported Romney. The darker blue were the states that clearly supported Obama. So as we get closer to the 2016 race, you will be able to see if those shift and the voters decide where to go. Missouri, you can see here, we did not vote for the winner, Obama. We barely voted for Romney in that case. Florida barely went blue for Obama. So it's just interesting to see those key states. Iowa and New Hampshire both went for Obama. This is a calendar. I thought this one was interesting. In 2016, as we get ready for our next presidential race, you can see Missouri. This is when we will hold our primary, our open primary. We'll vote in February. I thought that was interesting. We used to vote in March on Super Tuesday, but we've sort of tried to front load, remember we talked about that term, and move it up a little bit. Look how late California and some of these other states vote. I thought that was very interesting. A lot of southern states right here choosing to stick with that March date, and you can read the detail on some of these based on primary and caucuses. Iowa up here still trying to maintain that front-loading state to get most of the attention. This map is quite interesting and it takes a minute to read, but in 2010, based on the census, remember the census is every 10 years, we have to reapportion the members of Congress to reflect accurate population. So Missouri, we have 10 now. Remember in the 2004 slide I showed you we had more, but we lost a representative. So this one down here corresponds that we lost a representative in Congress. You can see the states in black are the ones that after the 2010 census, it shows that more people are moving to Florida, so they had to readjust those population distributions of representatives to reflect it accurately. So Florida, Texas, look at California with 55, New York lost 2 seats. This area right here, and I'll show this on the map, this is a good one to analyze, and we'll talk about this more when we get to Congress. This area right here is called the Rust Belt. And they really are, anything that you see in red is losing population. This area down here, also with Texas, is called the Sun Belt. And it does look like more people are moving south to warmer locations. So this also is going to be an immigration issue. Look at all the states that are gaining. So immigration will probably be a key issue in the 2016 race. The last slides that you can read are different things about the Electoral College. Many people think there are flaws. A lot of critics do not like the fact that a person can win the popular vote and lose the Electoral College vote. This has had a negative connotation, especially in 2000. A lot of people did not like that, and several amendments have been proposed to abolish the Electoral College. This part right here, nothing in the Constitution nor in any federal statute requires electors to vote for the candidate favored by the popular vote. We call these faithless electors, And what can happen is a person that the Democratic or Republican Party chose to go to the state capitol can, in fact, vote for the opposite person. This is a very rare occurrence, but in one example, when Clinton won the presidency, an elector was angry with several of Clinton's policies, so she flip-flopped and put Al Gore as president and Bill Clinton as vice president. So those are called faithless electors. The third one is if no candidate gets a majority, the election's thrown to the House. And in this process, each state is given one vote. So a state like North Dakota will equal the state of California in votes. And many people do not like that it would be an equal balance even though more people live in those states. So those have been some complaints about the Electoral College. Proposed reforms, you can look at this in the district plan. Electors would be chosen the same way members of Congress are selected. Each district would select one elector, and 2 electors would be based in the overall popular vote in a state. Also, there's the direct popular election, and that one would be whoever gets the most vote wins. And we would sometimes just do away with the Electoral College. The proportional plan suggests that each candidate would receive the same share of a state's electoral votes as he or she received in the popular vote. That means if a candidate got 60% of the state popular vote, he should get 60% of that state's electoral votes, and it would not be a winner-take-all mentality. Winner-take-all, remember, it doesn't matter how large, even if a candidate wins by 100 votes, they get all of that state's electoral votes. And many people think that that would be a better reflection. National bonus plan would automatically offer the winner of the popular vote the electoral votes. A lot of people like that there is a compromise. It's a known process. It's very unique to the United States, so some people enjoy that. And in most election years, overall, the process has tended to define the winner of the popular vote definitely is the winner of the electoral vote, and it's quick, and really people back it in the United States because it's in the Constitution. So that's all I have on the Electoral College. I hope that you learned some about it, and you can research it and go to the Electoral College site on government, but I hope that that was a good review for you of the Electoral College.